So I came across this book the other day when I was looking for some things, and I thought it was an interesting title to a book, Robots Make Bad Fundraisers. And I totally disagree. But the premise of the book is not robots like FRC robots. That is the fundraising done by computer robots and trying to gain contacts and funding through, technology and automated means. So I thought it was kind of the opposite of what I'm going to say. Typically, when you take robots to people with students, you end up in a better state than you would if you're just trying to explain it. And so often, if you have kids and robots in front of adults, you get some reaction. And I know that lots of you know that already. And but that's the key thing. It's uh, telling stories, explaining what you do, showing them some of the things that the kids have learned. That's the important part. So a little bit of fun and games there with fundraising, not working with robots. I think it's the opposite. Certainly, if anybody has any questions or you want clarification as I go through this, let me know. Our sponsorship is an expectation of all team members. And when I talk about this over the next few minutes, it's important to realize that I'm talking from mostly a non-COVID situation. In a general year, we set up our team in the fall, and the expectation of all our members is that you will bring in some sort of fundraising, whether it's you supporting us through a sponsor or you are involved in fundraising. But that's an expectation. It's been an expectation from the very beginning of our team. And so kids know that coming in, and they don't all adhere to it. There's no checkbox that says if you haven't fundraised, you're off the team. But it is kept track of in the sense that we know who's been working at it and who has not been involved. And maybe you need to come out to one of our metal drives or something like that to put in time as opposed to finding money. We've always set a goal. I remember one of my parents when we were fairly new, and he had set a goal, and it was a very aggressive goal, and I was shocked when he told our team, family members, parents that we wanted to reach this goal, and I was floored, but we met it, and so every year after that, we've always had a goal, and we've pretty well every year have set and made that goal, whether it's through in-kind or actual cash, but we've always had a goal. And in that goal, or to reach that goal, we've always documented and shared our stories. So that's a big part of our fundraising is what are we doing from September 1 to June 30th and even through the summer? What are we doing? Are we recording it? Are we making pictures, making stories, videos, somehow recording what we're doing, whether it's with elementary students or camps or whatever it is, making sure we document it so we can share that with our sponsors. This week, we are celebrating with our sponsors. So Thursday night, we're having a big dinner. I think there's 120 RSVP'd for the dinner, including sponsors, board people, parents, people that may even be interested in sponsoring us. And so we have a big dinner and we celebrate with our students, our mentors, and our sponsors. Now, we did get some flack over that a number of times. In fact, the board doesn't like us doing this, spending a lot of money on a big dinner, although they come and celebrate with us. And we've had sponsors that haven't liked the fact that we're spending money on a dinner, and they think it's their money that we're spending. And so I spent a number of meetings with one of our fairly big sponsors, explaining and going over the rationale and the budgeting of that dinner. And after that, they were back on board and realized that um, we weren't just spending their money to have a nice big celebration dinner, but that it was important to celebrate the excellence and the saying thank you to our sponsors. So you may do that. I hope a lot of teams celebrate in some regard. I just got a text message from a team in Virginia tonight, and he was showing me his leftovers from their celebration that they were having. Tax receipt. If you're connected to a nonprofit, so our school board is a nonprofit, that is important for some, but not as many as you would think. In our regard, many companies, as long as they have some sort of receipt saying that they've given you money, they don't need the tax receipt. But there are some that do, and so if you can do that, that's helpful. Um, we're always transparent about our costs. So at that dinner on Thursday night, we will show our kind of um, our model of expenses and our income, and be transparent about what we're spending money on, and gives them an opportunity to ask questions and say, hey, I can cover that particular expense next year. Going to Houston this last month, we had a service club contact us and say, hey, can we help you get there? And I said, yeah, it's going to cost us $2,000 to drive the trailer down there. Can you cover that? And they said, that's exactly what we were thinking. And so things like that are very helpful. Part of documenting and sharing your story is showing the impact. And if we can share those kids' stories, those students' stories, those impacts of kids going from grade 9 to grade 12, and their life being changed. Those are great impact stories. I've got a great one that, and I'm not sharing this story to be who we are. It's the kid that made this all happen. He was a grade 9. His brother and him came to the school because of robotics. They were kind of on the outside of where they were at another school, and went through our program. Both are extremely intelligent, very, but the type of kid that doesn't hang out with other kids. They're shy or not part of the in group, and both of them are working now in the States after their university careers, and the one was hired by Elon Musk a couple weeks ago to work with him and his Neuralink. So Elon was actually interviewing this student and saying, you're going to be working with me. And so those are the stories that we can share. That kid wouldn't have had that opportunity without what we do. And so um, it gives that impact, and shows that, hey, these kids have great potential, and we've just got to give them an opportunity. Um, something the last second to last thing there is, don't go after other team sponsors. I had one. I dropped into one of our sponsors a week ago, and I was talking to her, and she says, you know what? I just got a call from a team, and she didn't tell me where it was from or whatever, but she says, yeah, they were asking me if we would sponsor, and this is a little small mom and pop shop, and so nobody would have found them looking for a technical sponsor. This is a little center that is connected to us because their kids were part of the program, and so it always surprises me when teams do that. I know that that's happened before. I've had other sponsors come to me and say, "Hey, are you sharing your contact list with others?" And I said, "Well, it's just on our website." But so um, there are some sponsors that are willing to share and spread out, but be careful with that. We also ask our sponsors for a commitment. Can you do this for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years? We'll take less money up front if you can do this for 3 years as opposed to 1 year, and start that conversation. Um, if you can. In some cases, that doesn't work. Certainly over the last 2, 3 years with COVID, it's a different conversation with our sponsors. We know that not all organizations and companies, certainly the um, uh, the clubs, the Rotary clubs or the Optimist clubs are not fundraising like they used to, and so those are different conversations that we have. But with companies that you know that have been strong through COVID or coming out and rebounding, maybe that's a let's start to ramp up over the next 3 years back to where we were, things like that. Personal connections. I've had so many students come up to me and say, hey, I'm going after Google. I'm going to go try Intel. I'm going to try Microsoft. And I say, go ahead, make those contacts. But it's the personal connections that are going to be the ones that typically will come through. Um, and on occasion, those big ones happen. And they are fantastic. But typically, they're from a personal connection. Um, all of our big sponsorships are all personal connections to the company, whether it's an employee or the CEO or some family member who works there. Those are all the personal connections, parents and family. I'll reiterate at our dinner on Thursday night that this is the time to make those connections when you're traveling and you're talking to Uncle Bob or whoever it is over the summer. Those are the times when you start to share what happened to you over this last year at robotics and say, hey, we could use your support in any way that it is. Service clubs are great. They always are looking for people to come and speak and share their experience. High school students, Rotary again, we're going to talk with them coming up in the next month. I'll have students sharing their story. I have the chairman's team speak, or I have the driver and the operator, or I'll have the scouting team, all different types of um, presentations that those kids will do, just sharing what they do. Food sponsors is a big one. We have lots of food sponsors, not as many over the last 2 years with COVID, but previous to that, restaurants were always willing to give us food for a build night or a build Saturday, or even deliver food to a local, when we're at St. Mary or at Mac, the local pizza place would love to give 20 pizzas for an event. So include them as part of that whole sponsorship opportunity. Local building supplies. We've gone through a number of local building supplies. They'll give us material for 2 or 3 years, and then maybe the manager leaves or changes up hands, and we find another one. And we've been getting building materials for our field for many years. Sometimes part of it, sometimes all of it. The material costs are extremely high these last couple of years, so it's hard for them to do it, but they love seeing their logo on a field picture when we send it out. Local credit unions also big time. They love to support local organizations, so they often have a link on their website to go to community involvement. And so if you can drop into a local credit union or get connected on their site, those are great opportunities for not usually a lot of money, but $250, $500 helps in all kinds of things. In kind is a big one that we've had since day one. We have two sponsors that provide us machining and um, cutting out, laser cutting aluminum, and they are fantastic. And every year we call on them and say, can you do this again for us? And they squeeze it in however they can. And those are great opportunities. Or product, depending on what the product is. Sometimes you have to say, well, we don't use those things, or we can't use those motors, or but in some cases, it works out really well. Some of our actual fundraising opportunities, scrap metal and electronics has been huge. We've raised about $5,000 this year, just this year, in scrap metal and electronics. Once you get a name for yourself that you collect electronics, um, people just start dropping it off. Um, I get phone calls every couple of weeks saying, we've got some stuff, can we drop it off? And you just have to have space to store it until you take it to the metal place or the scrap yard. And we also talk about that with the kids. How do we recycle these electronics? They love taking apart computers and old electronics, and so we do that year round. And Rob and I, the auto teacher, end up taking a trailer full. We've got a trailer full right now of scrap metal that goes to the recycler, and separate it, get some money for it, and it just all goes back into the funds. We've done chocolate bar sales, donut sales, hex bug sales. Those are a lot of work. Typically not a lot of money, but it's if a parent wants to run one of those, I say go for it. As long as the board's okay with it. In our case, we always have to get things approved. But sometimes they do them just offsite, and they run a donut drive, and it's all off board. So those things, if they want to do it, go for it. If I'm not going to run them, because they're typically a lot of organization. But we have done also silent auctions, trivia nights, dinners where people pay tickets. Local establishments used to like that. Obviously, this is all pre-COVID. Um, and Boston Pizza has fundraising opportunities. Kelsey's like to have us in there. We filled the place, had auction items and prizes at Kelsey's, and made quite a bit of money a number of years ago there. And we've done that off and on over the last 16 years at different places. And it kind of comes and goes. You get a couple parents that want to do it, and you say, sure, let's run with it. And then it's a lot of work. It brings in some money, has some fun. You meet the new parents, things like that, and then it doesn't happen for a couple of years, and then somebody picks it up again. We also use FlipGive. That's a fundraiser through purchasing online. You get a percentage of your Walmart or your online shopping at all kinds of stores. They're pretty broad, and it works. We've raised almost $1,000 over the last 3 or 4 years, just watching the pennies add up, and it's simple, and it works. It's all there for teams. They give that actually right now. Home Hardware is giving $100 if you can raise $100. So there's quite often a matching addition there. So that's a way of doing fundraising without even, you set it up and you let it go, and you get people involved. It's kind of like Rocketon or those kind of money back things. Um, so we set up levels of sponsorship. We let people know that we have, and I'll show you our levels um, that we have for getting on the robot, getting in our pit, being on our documentation, things like that. I change a letter every year, so there's a letter that goes out to, for instance, our Rotary Club or our Optimist Club, or some of the new sponsors will send a letter that describes a little bit of what we do. We're always open to demonstrations. Obviously, after COVID, once we get things moving again in the fall, inviting possible sponsors to events, that's always a good one. A little difficult this year with COVID restrictions, but once we get open again, that'll happen again. We do Mailchimp updates, so we send out Mailchimp to all our sponsors. We try to get email addresses from all our sponsors or contacts and send that out with updates. That's where Home Depot sees, their logo on our field once it's built, that kind of stuff. It's important to use current lingo, so STEAM, STEM, all those things. Organizations are looking for those keywords, and when you hit the one, they just run with it. 21st century competencies, all kinds of things like that. And I'm probably way behind the time in those, actually, the lingo that people are looking for these days. But those are the things that we typically find are positive when we send out information. There's our sponsorship information page. The levels that we have. Every sponsor, if they give us $100, will be on our T-shirt. We have grandparents on our T-shirt. I know the text is small, and some years there's tons of them, but we try to get them on our T-shirt. And our T-shirts go everywhere, so that's part of the nice thing about our T-shirts. Silver up to 4,500, you're on our pit screens at our competition. Everybody's on our website. Then you're on a robot if we have space, depending on how that is. And then title sponsor. I know some teams like to have long, as many people in their title as they can. We like to have a fairly succinct naming title. So, and that's just the way we are. And so that would go to our sponsors. They know exactly where they're going to be at what level, and that changes over the years. But and if anybody wants a copy of that, I can send you that. You can actually go to our sponsor page and pull down that page and our letter if you want it. It's the previous years. I haven't uploaded the new one yet, but it'll be going up there in the next week or so. And there's on the left is the letter that I send. A one-page letter explains what FIRST is, explains our success over the past year, our alumni, where they may have seen us or where they might see us in local media or global media, and then a little contact information. And if we can, we'll reach out to our sponsor, our possible sponsor, after they receive this letter. We also have this all electronic, so I have USBs that kids can take and give to possible sponsors with video, the letters, and some other information. All the FIRST's documentation there. They have lots of PDFs that you can grab and include with your sponsorship package information. And then I like to do, I found that FIRST has their FRC at a glance, and I liked it, I don't know, 15 years ago. So I've created one for us to kind of give our sponsors an idea. Hey, these guys have competed here, here, and here. This is how they've done. Here's the robot. This is how many students, and a few sponsors on the bottom. So they get a quick picture of what we've done over the last 10 years or so. And I kind of like it. It reminds me of where we've been and where we're going. And one thing I will say that we celebrate as 2056. We celebrate robot excellence. That's our focus. That's our team focus from day one. And so that's who we are, and that's what we're going to talk about, celebrate, and that only happens with students and mentors. Obviously, we're not just talking about the fact that this robot scores this many balls or whatever, but our performance is our story, and so we run with that. And that doesn't mean that you have to have, so many blue banners or this many ranking score or whatever to get sponsors. Run with what your focus is. Where's your focus? What's your thing that keeps you in FRC every single year? Um, and so that's what you go with, and don't think that it has to be a 2056 experience to get fundraising. It certainly helps us to be a winning team. I don't disagree with that at any point, but it's it's not what we're doing this for. It's for the students' experience and what opportunity they have um, this year, next year, the years to come. So that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much, Stan. That was quite a thorough list of possibilities for teams to work with. Very creative and wide-ranging and low-hanging fruit, and more difficult and challenging and multi-year endeavors can be used for fundraising. And with that, we can open up the chat and or the commentary and invite anyone to ask some questions or offer some comments.
Okay, well, sorry, I'll jump in right away because I'm so excited. First, I'm Ram, 8764. We are like a couple months old.
Awesome.
Well, yeah. It's not been a year even, so we're just a couple months. And so thank you very much. This is really, 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 really great. So I got a couple of questions, or just one question. I want to use two examples to kind of see if you can really help us out. And like I said, we haven't even finished a year as far as the FRC goes yet, so we're kind of brand new. Mm-hmm. So fundraising and funding is the big one for us, and that wasn't working. I'll take for example Royal Bank. This is what I keep up at night. So I think about Royal Bank. I see the competition. They were going around. People were talking about asking, okay, did you get money from Royal Bank? So first thing I hear about it, one not going after sponsor. So I am taking Royal Bank as an example. I don't have any personal connections right now. I'll have to poll the students. And my thoughts is I'm gonna have this really great package, and I'd like to contact Royal Bank. Now, my thoughts is, okay, if I go to one local branch, I'm not too sure how much success I get there. And then I think about the head office. The question I'm getting at is like, I don't know what is this contact, or where do I get my foot in? Because if I just look on the website, there is, what are your thoughts? Should I target, just take a chance and go to just cold call any branch around here, or cold call head office? And let me ask the other part of the question right away so that I don't take up too much floor. Then to your point about don't go after sponsors. So I saw Magma everywhere, and Magma looks like they had millions to spend or billions, lots of money. So the other part. So is it fair to then say, if Magma was so big at the games, was I supposed to go? And same thing with the GM. It is okay to go try approach Magma? And I guess imagine that would be easier for me, because I'll try to figure out who are the people involved in FRC or Magma or something. But take that as an example. And GM is another one. Is it fair to say GM is sharing money around to multiple teams, and so all of us are fair to ask? And should I do the same thing? Try get hold of somebody at GM. Well, I have a GM contact. I know someone. Or Magma, for example. I don't know anybody at Magma, but just reach out to Magma, anybody at Magma, and they will know FRC and they will give us some money.
Yeah, and certainly I would ask anybody else to chime in too. But my experience with both of those, so Royal Bank, I would do both. If they have a community, I don't know if Royal has a community button on their website, but I know that the two credit unions that we get money from both have a community involvement button on their website. But I've also gone in and connected with the local branch president. Certainly if they're, or the local branch manager, if they're not driving from some other place to work there. They'll know about the possibility of your organization or your school once you get up and running, and so that's going to pay off more than the button on their website. But we did that button one time on a credit union and got through all the process and got some money on the end. And then we connected up with the branch president or branch manager there and made a relationship. And then it's an easy renewal every year.
Now,
Go ahead.
Sorry. I know locally here in town that from talking to all the different branches, the managers themselves have money that they can give to local charities without any upper level inquiries about it. So most branches have their own funds that they can give to local charities. So yes, talk to the local managers.
Well, thanks. That was helpful because my thoughts were really, I thought since Royal Bank, I didn't see the Royal Bank person there, but at the competitions, there was somebody, I know Royal Bank, somebody or some arm of it or something was given this money. And so my thoughts were, I need to connect, find where it is and where the pipe is.
And the bigger companies like GM, Magma, all those ones are going to have more opportunity to sponsor multiple teams and things like that. It's the little mums and pops that I'm surprised that get the multiple calls, and so and maybe they just don't know the size of the organization that they're contacting, but. Yeah, GM likes to have a personal contact, like somebody in the organization working somewhere in GM, but they're looking for brand new teams. That's their focus again in the last couple of years is brand new teams. So there might be an in there.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Stan's saying. So Ram, your team is in the same neighborhood that my team was in at 4001, and we did go to local banks. I think we started with the one that the school did business with, which made sense, and they were able to provide some funds. I'm sure by now all the managers have moved around and stuff. I think they move pretty frequently. But the other one you were talking about, Magna, that one's interesting because there's a lot of companies like that. So the way it works with Magna currently is that they'll sponsor teams if they have a parent who works at Magna that has a child on the team, or if someone at Magna has chosen to mentor that team. And I know there's a bunch of companies like that. So there's a team in Newmarket, a rookie team from a couple of years ago, and one of the dads is an engineer at Magna, and that's how I know that that's how that one's worked. So sometimes people like William or myself or Artie or John will know that some of these companies have requirements like that. So it's always a good thing to ask. But the other part about Magna, as an example, is they also provide a lot of money for events. And so there's a balance that they do. So they want to do events, they want to help run events, because the events that we put on are totally covered by money that First Canada raises. So when you see a title sponsor, it's they're providing the money. The money's not coming from the fees the teams pay to go to those events. Those go to First headquarters. So that's another thing too, is that we want sponsors like that to sponsor teams and support events, and most of them have that as part of their memorandum of understanding that that's what they're going to do to a certain degree. And as Stan said, GM likes to sponsor new teams as well, which is it's a great thing. Hope that helps.
Chris,
Thanks a lot. I don't want to monopolize, so I'll wait and give others a turn, because then I talk on the question if nobody else.
I know Christine popped a question up in the chat and asked what would our budget be for a year. We've been shooting for 85,000, 90,000 a year without counting in kind. It would be well over 100 if we included our in kind, and that includes everything. That includes the amount of money that kids pay for registration to be on the team. Our registration before COVID was $200, and that would give them their team shirt, so their polo, a t-shirt. I gave them meals at the dinner this week, and gave us some money to start the fall in. It also includes the funds that students pay to go to Houston or to Detroit for hotel rooms and things like that. So all that money is included in that 85,000 or 90,000. And so it does cover students, it covers mentors, it covers all the robot fees, the registration fees, all that stuff. And it depends on, not, it doesn't cover everything. Some mentors are paying for their own rides, their own flights, their own hotel rooms. Parents, things like that, are doing the same. So in some cases, it's not all of that, but it's a lot of that. And I always like to have money in the bank at the end of the year, even though my board doesn't like that. I carry over a significant amount if I can. Certainly the last 2 or 3 years, I've kept a lot of money in the bank because I didn't know where we would be at. This year, I'm not going to have very much money left in the bank because we went to Houston, and that was a huge cost, last minute cost. And so that's the way it is. So I would have, to give you numbers, I would normally have maybe 15, 20,000 in the bank. And so I won't have that much this year, but we'll see.
Okay, sorry, let me, if nobody has a question, let me ask another question. So sorry, guys, we started in September, so I'm just like, we're on FRC a couple months, 9 months or 8 months. So here's the other one. I got burnt this fall. We had later funded, and there was one parent who gave, we actually raised $3,200. This one parent gave 2,000 of that. And I felt burned because it's almost like they had a sense of entitlement at that point. And I said, oh my God, it's something I was going to watch out for. Well, in all fairness, I kind of like had sitting that on my shoulder for the whole time that the $3,200, okay, yeah, this person pony up $2,000. And I'm kind of watching out for that. And secondly, now I'm going to seek my mentors getting help on terms of even the registration. I'm kind of afraid of is that, what if we start collect registration fees and the student says, okay, $100 for my registration. Oh, I want to do this. Why can't I not drive? Because I paid $100 like everybody else, or just picking a number. How do you deal with that? That's why I'm going after companies, because I'm kind of like scared of this thing of, I imagine a company, I hear you saying about transparency, like a company gives money, I'm pretty sure I'm hope they're gonna have they're transparent and satisfied, and they won't be saying, I want to be on your team.
Yeah, there's always a dilemma there. And when we started our team, our students didn't pay anything. We started with sponsorships and grants that we found through board funding and things like that. And you work your way through, and you become, I'm still arguing with finance at the board, and having the ability to spend $85,000. They don't trust me. And so, you're always fighting that kind of game when you're working for a school board. And then if you're, a community team, then there's always the opportunity that the parents are going to be arguing about how you spend your money and things like that. So I don't think that's ever going to go away. And you just be honest and share what the focus is and where you're going, and try to, encourage them that, okay, you've given us this money and this is for the team and we're going to use it this way. And if you don't like it, I guess next year we probably won't see you. But
I know at the beginning, so we're a community team, but I know
Yep.
at the beginning of the year, October, usually we have our AGM. We're also a charity. So we have our AGM, we have all the kids there, we have all the parents there, or anybody who wants to attend. And I actually present our financials from the previous year so I get approved. And then I present our proposed budget for the following year. And I just basically tell the parents, this is where we're going to spend your money. Anything outside of that has to be approved by the board of directors of the charity. So they know full well where we're going to spend our money. And then I turn to them and say, so now you guys need to go raise it. Right? so I have no problem presenting them with an $80,000, $90,000 budget and say, so I know where 15 of that's coming. You guys need to figure out where the rest of it's coming. And I'm right up front with them. I say, if you guys can't raise it, guess who's paying it? That has to be paid for by the students, right? So I'm very frank with them at the meeting, so they know right in start of the year, this is what you're in for, right?
I see there's a question from Melanie.
Yes. So there's a difference between school boards and community teams. Is there kind of, school teams seem like kind of an enigma and a mystery to community teams, and vice versa possibly. And so I'm in a community team, and just the idea of how do you run and how many mentors do you use, and like how many students do you have as a whole to mentor relationship, like just that idea that you have a school team tends to, I imagine, a much bigger team than a community team. And how do you make that function?
Oh, sorry to jump in. I don't think that's true. To be quite honest, I should say that just because you're a school, or at least from my experience here, doesn't necessarily mean you'll have a lot of students. In fact, my rookie year, I was like blessed. I call them my dream team, and they tell me you're not going to have nobody next year because they're all graduated. So I had a dream team, and now I'm down to two, and I had him rope in one little guy beside him. So I lost everybody down except three. I'm left with one person from this year and one out of grade 10, and I'm kind of like roping his friends that just hang around with him.
That'd be interesting to also hear about 2056's team numbers over the years. I know there are some teams that have approached 100 here in Ontario. I'm sure they may have broken it here and there, but maybe Stan's experience over the years.
Yeah, we start with close to 100 in the fall. I open it up to anybody who wants. Our school is about around 1,000 students. And so, and it is, in our school, it's the team to be on, because we do well and we are very well liked in the school for the most part. And so we will have 100 people come out in the fall, but I spend that whole fall courting, or I tell the students that they're courting us. They're trying to figure out whether this is actually for them. And so I don't get a commitment from students until October, November in a typical year. And then even then, kids will sign the paperwork. They'll give me their fee, their $200. And then in January and February, I don't see them. So we'll be down to a core of 35, maybe 40 in build season. And then it drops even lower than that once we get to competition season. I typically take to World Championships, so Detroit, maybe 35 kids to Detroit, 25 to St. Louis. And that would be the kids that are involved, want to be there. Finances is not an issue. If there's I know kids that can't afford to go, I'll cover them. I'll make an arrangement. And so that's kind of our numbers. And how many mentors. Alumni are awesome. Lots of our alumni stick around and come back and help. That's a nice thing about our community. Not all of them, lots of them at the beginning number of years went to Waterloo, and so I lost a bunch to people like Team Dave and things like that, which is awesome. But they don't come back and help me. So, then I have I'm just up to 4 teachers on staff that are involved in some way or another. They're not there all the time. I'm the one that's there all the time. And then I have 4 or 5 outside mentors that are involved. A few of them are there all the time when we're there building after school. So that's kind of our org chart, if you'd like to be. We have a parent council that we meet once a month and talk about, where we're going, what we're doing, how we're spending money, and so then there's 2 of us that are kind of Tyler and I make the other decisions and direct the team in the way that we go. So.
Thank you. That's awesome.
We see Jen and then David also have questions.
Thanks. This is fantastic, by the way. I really appreciate this. I'm a newer mentor to Rockley Robotics. This is their only 2nd year. Well, we had the skip in between where no one did anything, but this is my 2nd year as a mentor. And one of the things I'm really curious about, Stan, with your program, how you've laid this out, is what your student to mentor ratio is when it comes to something so sensitive like fundraising. Do you have anything that is specifically done or exclusively done by members, or are students involved in every step of the process? Could you maybe share a bit about how that's broken down?
Yeah, fundraising wise, it would be just a free for all. It's, parents that want to get involved, kids involved. I have students calling. So I have a list of sponsors that like to get a phone call every year. So there's a script that I have, 5 or 6 sponsors. And until they took the telephones out of my classroom, they used to use my phone in the classroom, and they would call up, Mr. What's his name? One of the steel companies in Hamilton. I'm trying to remember his name. He was in his 80s, still running his steel company, and he would like a phone call from one of my kids every year. Kids would be freaking out because they don't know what they're doing until they do it once, and then they're good at it. And so I get them. I used to have a parent that was kind of my fundraising mentor. He's since gone on, and so nobody's kind of taken that on board. But most of it falls on my hands to manage it since he's left, and so then it's parents and kids working away at taking out sponsorships. Like my very first in-kind sponsor was a cold call by a couple students that walked into a machine shop and said, "Hey, we think you would be a great partner to ours." And they said, "Sure, show us what you do." And we brought drawings and got them to cut out parts for our robot that next year. And then they hired one of my mentors and have been with us until just recently. So like I said right at the beginning, you get kids in front of adults speaking and communicating well, and they'll be able to sell pre-COVID.
Right, and post.
Yeah, and hopefully post, yeah.
Okay, appreciate that, thanks.
That was great. I had seen David's hand up. Maybe that was a stale hand before. There had also been a question about how one engages a school board. I think that was from the chat. Maybe Yana had asked that.
Yeah,
actually, sorry, I was actually going to say that we were a team that actually transitioned from being in the school to being a community team. We left the school at about 35 students. We grew to about 50 when we became a community team, and then stuff happens. We are now a team. We are now a team of 10, but 10 very dedicated students who have been there all year. Great public speakers. They do all of our sponsorship contacts. We generate a list from them for them. We give them a basic script, and we actually tell them to send emails first to give companies a heads up that we're going to call, and then we call everybody. That's just so that one, they're expecting our call. And with any luck, sometimes they actually reply and say, this is the person you need to talk to when you call. So it helps streamline that a little bit. And we also give them the hot contacts first. So our current sponsors are called first because odds are they're going to renew. They're the easy ones, right? Easy to start off. You get yeses to start, and then move into some of your cold contacts, which tend to be more no's than yeses. But by then they've got some energy behind them before they get there.
That's great.
Sorry, if I can jump in here again. Sorry, tell me if I'm monopolizing. So here again, my next topic is this membership fees. So let me put it in context for you then. So I'm down to 3 students now. My thoughts are this: I can't wait to gather students in September to do fundraising. So I'm planning to like go at it a little bit of myself, and then with the 3 I get. And so what I'm saying, oh right, that ties into the membership part of it. So then that ties into the membership also. So like I'm thinking, that's the other reason why I'm gonna scramble to go after companies, because again, I'm thinking I can't wait until September. My thoughts are it's almost like it's build it and they will come. For September, for me to be successful next year, I have to almost like stand up the team and be kind of ready going, and then the kids are gonna come. And trust me, well, that's like you said, I'll code the kids in the fall. So the question really I'm asking about is membership. How much, if you have a 10 dedicated students, for me, membership fees are a big topic, because it's almost like I wouldn't think I've collect membership fees. I don't know how much difference it makes if you have 15 or 20 students and all they give me $50, like, but I don't know. I guess as a top,
we didn't at the start of our team either. We didn't have any membership fee. We just did sponsorships, and I had a principal then that was looking for grants, anything to do with STEM or innovation. He was just scrounging for money that could come to the program, and found a grant that would work. So I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years even before we started getting a fee.
There's an interesting difference. My team was started on the initiative of a student, and we had no budget for that at all in the school. And it was already after the start of the season. So he gathered 35 other students in the room, and he gave a little speech about, well, he wanted to do a robotics team. Would everyone be willing to put up $150? And every single one did. And so that's how we got enough to attend and pay our fees in the first year. So it's all different, in each school has their own situation. And it can also vary the amount, and it's a whole mix. You have to consider it as an individual decision, as each team will be likely very different with each city, each set of sponsors, each number of students, and all kinds of factors.
Oh yeah, you're right. I paid $4,500 for my son to do VIX. That was enough.
Yes.
And then a $1,500 after that. So yeah, each literally, the guy said, he just said, "Are you willing?" $4,500, and 10 kids joined up, or so at $4,500.
There was a comment about school boards. I just want to share this. It is a mysterious thing. School boards are a black box, even if you're in the school board. I'm sure Stan can comment about that. Like, what happens inside the school board building is everyone's guess. However, if you do happen to have some kind of connection with a school board, it's good to leverage it. And we've seen that in certain boards around the province who have sponsored multiple schools. So we're working with a few boards on different levels, either with their officials or in coordination with teams to just help the communication process. So if someone does happen to have a connection in a school board, it's very helpful information, because FIRST can also help in the communication process to encourage the board and offer them support and do things from the interinstitutional level, whereas the schools then have a means of collaborating. So there may be some fundraising sort of initiatives within your own board. For example, you could come as a group of 5 schools in your board saying we all want to do something that may be better than one. So those are just a few thoughts there. Oh, yes, Melanie has a question.
I would also say one more thing about the registration. Have a look in your local area how much parents spend on hockey or any other sport. And then have that in your presentation when you talk to your students and you talk to the parents. I did that with my FTC team, and I sent it to, I talked to all the parents and the kids and said, you know, this is what we're providing. This is what the year looks like. This is how far we can learn and grow together. This is how much time we're going to spend. But this is a commitment. So there's no just coming and going as you please, because you will miss too much. So if you're going to commit your time, then we can balance out the costs of registration and lower that cost. But if you're not going to spend the time at it, you're going to lose out, and you're going to have a higher cost to the rest of the team as a whole for their time. So making sure that there's that commitment, as well as some fee, as Paul said in the chat, is really important to get them to get on board. And I even had it so that if they covered their costs, I would give back, or the parents would have the option to have the money back to a certain extent, or it goes on to the next year if they're continuing on. So being as clear as possible and fluid as possible for whatever situation you're in, whatever feels right, gut instinct, that's what I go by.
Well, thank you very much. That was a great point. Having the students buy in is really great. And yeah, other sports and activities certainly do take a lot of funds each year from families. It is said that FRC is the hardest fund you're ever going to have. And I guess that's as much for the mentors as for the students. And yeah, it is very satisfying when you get a nice financial arrangement through some hard work and ingenuity and a little bit of luck. And it's great that we have this community here that's able to support each other. Many teams on the call here have had the great privilege of visiting or communicating with, and would love to pay a visit if conditions allow. And it really helps, because then we can say, oh yeah, there's a school down the road or a team over here that's doing this or that, and we can help support each other. And that really brings a certain richness to the whole FRC community. So with that, I'd really love to thank Stan for his insights, wisdom, and experience. It was a really beautifully done and very thorough presentation. And the extra comments and questions were also really informative for the whole subject of FRC fundraising. So yeah, a little bit of applause is great. So we look forward to seeing everyone at off seasons. We have mentor trainings, I'm sure you've seen, coming up in July and August. And we're happy to take any of your suggestions for topics. And yeah, with that, we can hope to see everyone soon. And congratulations to everyone who was able to manage to compete this season despite the overwhelming challenges of society and bureaucracy, and just sheer determination and a knowledge of the transformative power of FIRST has brought many of us through to where we are today. So wonderful to see you all this evening.
I just want to say thanks to William and for FIRST to continue to engage and help us as mentors and teams. And so great opportunity for all of us. And another opportunity that I want to share, we'll be putting on our conference in the fall, in September or beginning of October. So take a look. Stuff will be coming out for that, and get an opportunity to come and see our facility, see some of the stuff we do, and hear some good talks. And we'll hopefully have some online so that you can do that if distance is a problem.
Well, that's amazing. That's great. Thank you very much, Stan. So thank you again, and we'll hope to see everyone very soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, thanks, Stan. I missed that. I would love. I will. Not far off. I'm willing to come down to the conference. We'll be getting that information later or something.
Yeah, if you either keep an eye on our website or First Canada will send something out once we get dates nailed down and things like that.
Sure, we'll put that on the program updates.
Stan, what's your website?
2056.ca.
Very
Thanks.
succinct and easy.
Succinct.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, I really appreciate it, Stan. I want to say a personal thank you. This was great. Like I said, I'm only 8. We're in this business. We're in it 8 months now, so
Mhm.
so it was a really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stan, I just wanted to say hi, and I'm not sure if you know Niall O'Driscoll from 7480.